Welcome back to Midnight Signal AI. Today is June 23rd, 2026, and the biggest theme is clear. AI labs are pushing harder into security, utility, and distribution at the same time.
Yeah, and that makes matters. We've got OpenAI moving into cyber defense, product features that make ChatGPT more active, and partnerships that put more real-world content and enterprise access inside the stack.
Let's start with the biggest move of the day from OpenAI, a security push that says a lot about where frontier models are heading.
This is a meaningful framing shift. OpenAI isn't just talking about models that can spot bugs. It's talking about a pipeline: find, validate, patch, and review. That's much closer to an operating system for security work than a chatbot feature.
And it's not just a standalone tool. OpenAI also paired it with Patch the Planet, a Daybreak initiative aimed at open source maintainers, which makes the whole thing feel like an ecosystem play rather than a one-off announcement.
Exactly. Open source maintainers are a force multiplier. If OpenAI can make itself useful there, it buys credibility with developers, security teams, and maybe even regulators who want evidence of beneficial use cases.
Switching gears, OpenAI also struck a licensing and distribution deal with Getty Images. The basic idea is simple: more licensed visual content inside ChatGPT results, which is a big step for how people will trust what they see.
That's a classic maturing platform move. Once the model is good enough, the fight shifts to content supply, legal comfort, and user trust. Getty is valuable because it solves all three at once, at least in theory.
Another OpenAI product move today: scheduled tasks. This is one of those features that sounds small until you think about how often people want ChatGPT to just remember and act on a routine without being prompted every time.
Right, and this is a subtle but important change. The value isn't just generation anymore. It's whether ChatGPT can become the place you delegate follow-up work, which is a much stickier relationship if it works reliably.
On the enterprise side, Samsung is now rolling out ChatGPT and Codex to employees worldwide, according to People Matters Media. That's a serious scale signal because it means frontier tools are moving from pilot projects into daily corporate workflows.
That's huge because Samsung isn't just a software company buying access. It's a global industrial enterprise with real operational complexity. If this sticks, it tells other big employers that ChatGPT and Codex are no longer experimental toys.
Let's do a quick callback on GPT 5.6 because there's a genuinely new development here. As we reported in our June 22nd episode, OpenAI was already being watched for the next model. Now Tech Times says the launch window starts Monday with an alignment fix in a 1.5 million token context inside.
That context number is the part to watch. If it's real and usable, it pushes the model deeper into long document work, code bases, and multi-step analysis. But bigger context only matters if retrieval, reasoning, and cost all hold together.
And to round out the OpenAI heavy part of the day, there's a second security-related thread from Wired and OpenAI's own Daybreak pages. This isn't just about catching bugs, it's about showing that frontier models can be framed as part of the fix, not just part of the problem.
Across today's stories, the pattern is pretty clear. Security, content licensing, and proactive features are all about turning a model into infrastructure. That's what maturity looks like. But it also means more responsibility, more regulation, and more pressure to prove real-world value.
And beyond OpenAI, the industry is still moving on policy, governance, and power plays. We've got a few quick hits that show the rest of the field is dealing with the same gravity.
That's the broader signal. The technical race is still on, but the market is also judging these companies on safety posture, data hygiene, and whether they can be trusted with more sensitive workflows. The winners may be the ones that can do both.
One more note: Zhipu AI is making noise in China after the GLM 5.2 release, with the South China Morning Post saying the company's market cap topped 1 trillion Hong Kong dollars. That's a separate lane from OpenAI, but it shows how quickly model releases can turn into capital market stories.
That one matters because it reminds us this isn't just an American story. Frontier AI is now a global competition, and in places like China, a model release can immediately spill into investor sentiment, national strategy, and industrial planning.
That's the picture for today. OpenAI is widening the surface area of what ChatGPT can do, from cyber defense to scheduling to licensed media, while the rest of the field is dealing with governance pressure and market reactions. On the robotics front, Europe is trying to build something that's more than just another AI demo. Eurocat's Grail project is aiming for a large AI model designed specifically for industrial robotics, the kind of system that can help machines understand factory tasks, adapt to changing conditions, and make automation less brittle. That matters because industrial robots are only as useful as their ability to handle real-world messiness. A perfectly scripted arm is great until the part arrives crooked, the line changes, or the lighting shifts. A domain-tuned model could help with planning, inspection, and coordination across more complex production environments. And Jamie, this is where it gets interesting. If Europe can build a strong robotics foundation model, it's not just a technical milestone, it's a strategic one. It means more control over the software layer that increasingly decides how factories run.
Exactly, and in manufacturing, the software layer can be worth as much as the hardware. If this works, it could make robots more flexible, easier to deploy, and a lot less dependent on endless custom programming. That's a big deal for any shop trying to scale automation without scaling headaches. So the story here is bigger than one project. It's Europe making a claim that industrial AI can be built for the real world, not just the lab.
Over on the silicon side, SpaceX is reportedly moving into chip manufacturing. That's a pretty striking expansion for a company best known for rockets, satellites, and fast-moving hardware programs. But in 2026, the boundaries between space, communications, and compute are getting thinner. If you're building systems that have to perform under extreme constraints, chips are not optional plumbing. They're the nervous system. More control over silicon can mean better performance, tighter integration, and less dependence on outside suppliers when the stakes are high. Jamie, this also fits the broader trend of companies wanting to own more of the stack. If the hardware matters, then the chip matters even more. And if the chip is a bottleneck, suddenly the bottleneck becomes strategy.
Right, and SpaceX is one of the few companies with the scale and urgency to even think about that. It's not just about making a chip for the sake of having one, it's about designing around the exact workloads and environments your products need. So while this sounds like a side quest, it may actually be a power move. Fewer dependencies, more control, and maybe a custom silicon edge in a world where everyone wants faster, leaner, and more reliable AI-adjacent hardware.
And to end on a lighter note, the internet is back to doing what it does best, turning AI into a fortune teller. Today's flavor is a pair of crypto predictions, with AI tied to bold calls on Ethereum and Bitcoin by the end of 2026. Jamie, this is the perfect mix of speculative finance and algorithmic mystique. It's basically designed to go viral.
Absolutely. It's the kind of story where nobody really needs to agree because the headline is the product. Still, it's hard not to smile at how quickly AI gets recruited into the most dramatic corners of the internet.
Across today's stories, a few things stand out. First, AI is moving from standalone model demos into embedded workflows, security pipelines, corporate rollouts, and proactive assistance. Second, trust is becoming a product feature, whether that means licensed content, safer cyber tooling, or tighter controls. And third, the competitive edge is now as much about distribution and legitimacy as raw capability. That's the road ahead: less novelty, more infrastructure, and a lot more scrutiny. That's it for this episode. We'll be watching the launch cadence, the enterprise rollouts, and the security claims closely. Stay sharp. The future doesn't wait.